now the latest around the wide world of tropics. Tropical Weather Bulletin for July 17th. Today's spotlight is still very much on Hurricane Felicia, which peaked in the last few hours and possibly still about to, with the winds in Category 4 range, and Tropical Storm 9W, which we've just approved as a tropical cyclone in the last few hours in the Western Pacific. It's a bit of a messy one, but it looks like it will get itself together rather quickly. In the Atlantic, it's day 47 of Atlantic hurricane season, and no areas of interest are currently active, so it's much a relief to see that the Atlantic is quiet again. So nothing much else to talk about there. Let's move straight on to the Eastern Pacific then, where of course Hurricane Felicia, Category 4 right now, at least 130 mile per hour winds. Some of our team think it's quite a bit higher actually, and a 90% area of interest to its east, which will probably become our next tropical cyclone as it moves out in a similar direction, just north of Felicia's track we expect. A messy picture in the Western Pacific. We have two areas of interest along with the newly designated 9W. 9W itself will probably become a significant typhoon and could be a major threat to the southern Ryukyu Islands, Taiwan and the eastern coast of China. That 10% there in the South China Sea as well. Indian Ocean is much quiet right now, nothing going on at all. There were rumblings of a possible low pressure system developing in the Bay of Bengal, but it would seem extremely unlikely and very uncharacteristic for this time of year. It doesn't look like it's going to happen. So the Atlantic right now, a big dry air mass in the eastern Caribbean out into the open waters, but you can see just a little trace of a system in the western Atlantic there, just off the eastern coast of Florida and the Bahamas. That's a very, very weak low pressure system. That's the only thing of any note at all there. The eastern Pacific is obviously quite clear to see where Felicia is. There is dry air lingering to its west. At some point that will take a toll, as will lowering sea surface temperatures. But for now it still remains a pretty decent Category 4. We just have a quick close-up there. You can see how that storm's been progressing a very good eye. And in the Western Pacific, this is what it looks like right now, that new tropical storm developing there in the Philippine Sea, 505 miles south-southeast of Daiotojima as of our last fix on that system. That will loop around towards the north, then move on towards the west and affect some of those islands. Exactly where it's going to go yet, we're not quite sure. Those next systems will be looking out for development late on in the 5-day period. And there's a wide look at the Indian Ocean as well. Nothing going on there. The Western Pacific, it looks like it's going to get the limelight after Felicia starts to wind down. There's another view, and because of the potential confusion on the beginning of our update, that 30% chance was right underneath the storm icon for our new tropical storm. Obviously that's something that will be happening later on after 9W clears that immediate area. Going to get rather busy in the Western Pacific in the next few days, I feel. Here's out east then, so another look again at Felicia, a very small tropical cyclone but intense inside that right now. Category 4, pressures falling below 955 millibars, possibly much lower than that, and wind speeds of at least 130 miles per hour sustained. Off to its east, that big broad area will become probably that next tropical cyclone. It's got a 90% chance, both from ourselves and by the National Hurricane Center, of cyclone genesis. Sea surface temperatures then, Felicia right now looks like it's over around 28 degrees Celsius waters. It will drop off a cliff as it moves towards the west, if it moves a little bit too far north, but the track will take it actually west-southwest for a bit, so it could have some time. The Atlantic, very warm there, no problems at all, and off the coast of Mexico for that other area of interest, very warm waters for that one, although it will take a slightly northerly track, and in that case probably won't last as long. The Indian Ocean, very warm but not much impact for cyclone genesis because of the poor conditions there, as is natural at this time of year. The Western Pacific, very warm, 30 degrees plus in the Philippine Sea. Everywhere where that storm's tracking, it'll be around 28 degrees and above. pretty much up until its potential landfall in eastern China. And systems behind that, South China Sea, very warm, hot even, and the Philippine Sea behind 9W will remain fairly warm, above average pretty much across the board, west of the Mariana Islands. In the eastern Pacific, east of Hawaii and south of those islands, it's below average. Off the coast of Mexico, slightly warmer. Off the coast of Florida, still that big pocket of cooler waters compared to average because of the Elsa effect, but elsewhere it's looking pretty warm there. So on this day in 1996, the remnants of Bertha was still just about traceable off the coast of Greenland, but Typhoon Eve was the main feature, reaching its secondary peak as it approached the Japanese islands. The northern Ryukyus and Kyushu were under the barrel of a Category 4 storm approaching. It would start to weaken later in the day, but certainly Eve was a powerful storm headed very close for comfort to those islands on this day. But back to 2021. The next name on the Atlantic naming list now is Fred, followed by Grace. In the Eastern Pacific, we're now looking out for Guillermo, followed by Hilda. In the Central Pacific, we're still waiting for Hone. On day 198 of the year so far, was that time gone by the way? The next name in the Western Pacific is Infa. Looks like we are inbound for that name very shortly. In the North Indian Ocean, Gulab is next on the naming list there. In the Southern Hemisphere then, in the Australian region, the next name is Paddy. The Southwest Indian Ocean will kick off with Anna, who knows when that might be, and in the South Pacific, the next name is Cody. That's all for now. We'll have another tropical weather bulletin tomorrow night.